Welcome, everyone, to the story that built her. This is where we go beyond the highlight reel. We go into the real, raw stories of women who are doing exactly what they want to do in the world. They're running a business, they're following their career. And I'm your host, Adriana Monique Alvarez. You can just call me Monique. And every week, I'm going to sit down with different women who have gone on a journey and are willing to share the wisdom that they've gleaned. And we know that every woman, we can learn from her wins, but we can also learn from her wounds, from the wild ride that life took her on. And that's what we're here to talk about, because behind every bold brand, book, business, there is a story, and we are here to tell it. So I'm super excited to have Lianeth with us. Hi, Lianeth. How are you?
Hi, Monique. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And, I love that you and I have met. I know that you're in Colombia right now. Is that correct?
Yes, Barranquilla, Colombia.
I love it. And you are getting ready to move to London to pursue the next chapter and dream. Yes?
Absolutely. In September.
In September. So it's not that far away. And one of the things I love about you have such a spectrum, right? Because you're a software developer, but then you also are working on your book. You're a motivational speaker. You found all of these things. So I want to talk about the various aspects of you and how you're bringing them all together. And
Absolutely.
I want you to be able to share through our conversation sort of how you found your most authentic path through all of this. Yeah, how you found yourself. So take us back. You're a software developer. What was the catalyst? What was an event or something that happened that made you realize that you wanted something more or different?
Yeah. So again, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you. So basically, when I started studying engineering, because I'm actually an electronics engineer, I never actually wanted to be an engineer. It was more like a decision, when you're just so young that you don't know what to pursue in life and what you want. And at that moment, it made sense. Like I didn't grow up here in Barranquilla. It was in a different city. So when I tried to apply for universities and for careers, I was more focused on that moment, like, okay, what kind of career can help me to grow and to have a good job and good salary, all of that. So at that moment, it was more focused on that sense. So when I started working after finishing the university, I suddenly became a software developer. That was also a switch for me because I wasn't expecting that. I graduated as an electronics, so I expected to work in telecommunications, like in design and something different. And suddenly life pushed me to the software development area, and that was shocking for me because I didn't like programming at all. Like when I was in university, I literally hated it. So I was really kind of stressed a bit, and at the beginning it was hard. I had to learn a lot of things by myself because I was working more as a systems engineer instead of electronics. So it's kind of different: websites, databases, a lot of things. So at that moment, I knew right away, I'm not in the right place at this moment. But the issue was that I was just starting my career. So at that, it's very difficult. It's especially if you don't know what you want to pursue. How am I gonna switch to something if I don't know what do I want at this moment? So I continue working on that, and I actually had a great career. Actually, I'm still working hours in software development, but I have been working in this area for 10 years right now, like so far, and it has been quite a journey. But I always knew, like that thing that it's like it's not my area, it's not what I should be doing, but I gave the best of me. I did my best to deliver, to work on the companies. And actually I think I did a great job because I passed. Like, I started working on local companies here in my country, but then I started working for international businesses, and currently I work for a US based American company. So it's more like, okay, I have grew in this area. But The problem is like, okay, I feel like I need more. And that moment that you're talking about was kind of 2 years ago. I went to a like deep crisis. I would say like identity crisis. That moment when I turned 30. I'm 30. I'm almost 32. So when I turned 30, I was like, okay, what am I doing? So at this point of my life, I think I have a great career in software development. So I was okay, let's do what else I can do. And at that moment, suddenly it came to me. Like, honestly, I never thought I wanted to pursue a master in something different or I wanted to write a book. It wasn't in my plans at all. For me, it was more like shocking. Like, I just started to have this crisis. And the problem with the crisis is that, that it's like very dark moments. I was like a lot of tears and frustration, and every day was really hard for me to go to work. And suddenly I start like being productive. I felt like I lost my spark, and
Mm.
all every days, I don't know, it was very hard for me, like a different time. But that moment led me to that discovery. At some point, I remember like I just started feeling really bad, and I was like, I want to write a book. Like, the idea just came to me like suddenly. And the thing with that idea is that when it came to me, like when I got it, it never went away. So for me, it was like, I have to do it somehow. I don't even know how to start. I haven't written anything in years. I don't know what to do, or with people, like what kind of people should I be reaching out. But yeah, here we are. And then in that process, I also discovered that I wanted to pursue like another kind of studies, completely in a different area. So yeah, I would say 2 years ago, long story short, and it was this crisis of turning 30, and seeing if there was more for me than just being a software developer.
And I think this happens around big birthdays. This almost evaluation of our life. Am I doing what I want to be doing? Is there something else for me to do? Is there something else for me to pursue? And obviously, this is what brought us together. You were on this mission to write a book and publish a book, and we were introduced to each other. And I don't even know if I've told you this, but as soon as I met you, I was so impressed with you, right? I just want to give you a little perspective, because I think when we're growing up, we have this idea that, we're going to have it all figured out very young. Actually, I think you have it figured out very young. I think you're very, very rare. And I was so impressed with you right off the bat because you are very clear about what you want to do and about who you are. And honestly, there's 40, 50, and 60-year-olds that don't have the discipline and dedication that you do. And there's so few people who will write the book, even when it knocks on their door, even when it won't go away. And you're incredibly dedicated to it, even though I think writing a book is one of the hardest things that someone can do. And as a side note, I don't even know if it's a side note, but I also, as soon as I did your personal assessment, we figured out you were 5'1". I was like, yes, I have such a big heart for her because, I could see that power and that 5'1" leadership. And I just want to say it's amazing to see you take everything, no matter how big or daunting or whatever it is, and you commit to it. And I think that's really rare.
Yeah, no, thank you for those words. No, I mean, for me, it's like I am really like a dream chaser. And that's how I will describe myself. Like all the time, like every time that I have a goal or a dream, I always want to go for it, go for it. That will be my summary in that case. And for this was the same. I am not gonna lie, it's hard. As you said, writing a book, like all this process has been really hard for me, especially because for the people that are around me, like the relationships around me, even myself, like at the moment when I want to write a book, so what I'm gonna write about. And then it came to me like, okay, my experiences, all those years, because of course, since I wasn't working in my area or in my purpose, I was suffering a lot of anxiety and these kind of crises. It wasn't the first time that I had one of them. So I was like more focused on, okay, I need to talk about my experience, my journey, and all the things that I have learned from psychologists, from therapy, from coaching, from different holistic practices that I have done during these years, that have helped me to increase my confidence and actually to discover myself. Because at some point you lose identity and you are more like, okay, I'm kind of a robot, and I'm just coding every day. Because I really like, I am really grateful for programming and for the software development in general. But it's, even if it's, there is a way you can describe that as a creativity, because you actually have to build something, a lot of things. I built a lot of things, but at the same time it's more like in a very engineering perspective, and also like this black terminal that you have to write the code, and every time it's like a bit dark sometimes. And I was completely immersed in that part of my life. And at some point I feel really gray, like when you are more like, okay, every day I do the same, I write these. But then I realized like this is not my thing. And I'm more like, I want to speak, I want to talk, I want to write, I want to be with other people, to connect. And actually I want to write, but maybe not code, maybe another thing. When I realized about that, I was like, no, definitely I have to go for it, because it's the first time in my life that I have a direction. Like, okay, I know that I want to do something. I didn't know that before, and that's why I chose to study engineering. But now that I know it, let's go for it. And I started doing taking all the steps needed in order to get to this point, where I'm actually writing the book with you. And yeah, like doing a lot of stuff, and being kind of resilient. And at the same time, you have to be really courageous, because it takes a lot of courage to do everything that we have done so far. It's not easy. I at some point quit my job. Then I had to take it again. So it's like I've been quite a journey, that I feel, but I feel really proud about myself, because it's it's hard, and I have done it alone, and it's incredible. Like it's a beautiful journey, hard but beautiful at the same time.
Absolutely. And I want to dive a little deeper into this. And I didn't warn you about this, so I'm sort of putting you on the spot. But I have a feeling you can flow with it, and you can also say, I don't want to talk about it. Another thing that really stood out to me, Lianeth, is you were born and raised in Colombia, yes?
Yes.
And there's a lot of Americans. There's a lot of British, Europeans, even Australians who grew up in countries with a lot more wealth and opportunities, and they're doing far less with their lives. And this is also something that really stood out to me, because I can tell you how many Americans have told me that they won't find the time or the money to do what you found the time and money to do. And I think you are such an example of, if you know this is your next thing to do, you can find the way to do it. And I just want to talk a little bit about that. I don't get the sense that you've let anything hold you back, including where you're from, or what your family is, or how many resources were available to you. You have always struck me as someone who's like, I mean, we've even had conversations and you're like, I will figure out how to do that. And every single time you do. I mean, you even figured out this move to London and to go get your master's degree. Tell us a little bit about what does it look like when you're like, I'm going to figure this out? What does that look like for you?
I think everything starts like when I was a child. As I said before, I didn't grow in Barranquilla, because Barranquilla is like a big city here in Colombia. I grew in a small town. The name is Rihuacha. It's like 4 hours driving from Barranquilla, and I lived there for 16 years. So when you are raised in a place where there's not much, like we didn't have a lot of opportunities in terms of places to go or to study or activities like extracurricular things to do, you need to somehow create that in your brain. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, okay, I need to figure out how to get to the place where I want to be, even with my reality. Like in my case, I was very like privileged because my parents, like, they are teachers, and they gave me like the opportunities to study and to do all the things I wanted to do. But for example, just to give you a quick thing, it's like English. English wasn't very good at my town. Even at school, it was very normal because people there are not like in studying in bilingual institutions or something. So it's more like a regular thing. So at that moment when I was there, I remember listening to music in English, even there, watching TV series in English, and trying to, of course, translate as much as I could at that moment. And I remember asking my mom and my dad, hey, can I study English in Barranquilla? So I had to, like, every holiday I came to Barranquilla to study, and I had to stay with my grandparents far from my home to study English. And I didn't know why I was doing that. Like, now I'm connecting the dots backwards, and I noticed why I did it, but at that moment it wasn't clear. Even my parents sometimes were more like, okay, but they always accepted. But it was weird because I was always asking for things like, I want to study this, I want to study that, and they supported me. And that's something that I'm really grateful, because if it wasn't for them, I wasn't here. So but that's the kind of things, like, you need to figure out how to do it. I cannot do it here. I need to find a place where I can do that. So I was, let's do this in this school, let's go to this city. Actually, when I started working as a software developer at the beginning, my English was good, let's say, and it was enough to work for Colombian companies, because here you have to speak Spanish all the time, so no worries about that. But at some point, I realized, like, if I wanted to grow in this area, I needed to speak English fluently, because my clients would be American based. So I was like, okay, how do I do it? It's not enough to do it here in my city, because like, even if I go to school and I attend school, I have to practice, but I will be all the time speaking Spanish, and it's not gonna be the same. So at that moment, I was very like, I took a risk, and I asked my boss, like, hey, do you think I can work remotely? And the payment was really like low at that moment, so it wasn't actually a good win, but let's say it was a good thing at that moment. So I say, hey, let me go, and I want to study English in US. So at that moment, I didn't have the money. I had to lend the money. And actually, not only that, but I had to ask to my cousin to stay at her place. So and choose a school close to her home. Like, I was very limited. Not any school, not any city, not like, just here, 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 to make it happen. And I did. Like, I took the risk and I went there. I spent like 5 months living in US in Alexandria. And at that moment, the things started to cooperate. You know, like, when you start doing the work, somehow life starts to giving you these rewards. And at that moment, I got the first opportunity to work for a company in Israel, but everybody, like, with people from all over the world, working as software developers there. So it was my first work with a foreign company, and it made sense. It was hard at the beginning, but then I switched to all American companies, and now it's how I work. So that's the kind of thing. So all the time that I wanted something, I knew that maybe like, the common thing, it was, it's not possible here. Somehow it's not possible in my current reality. So how can I get there in order to make it happen? So that's something that it's in my brain, like, since I was a child. So I feel like that's the key of how I have been doing things in life, because I always take risk. That's another thing. I am, even when I am afraid of doing something, I go for it. I take risk. I am really like, okay, let's do it. I'll figure it out. I'll see how to get the money. I'll see how to arrange things. Who do I have to ask for this, or to talk to about this? For example, in this case, my cousin, somebody to give me the money, or maybe the bank, or my parents, or even myself, my best, like, my savings. For example, everything that I have been doing with the book is with my savings from my work, so it's not like I'm doing something different to to work with this. So it's like the mentality, I would say, probably of not having all those opportunities at the beginning that somehow create this resilience in you, and you have to go for it, and you need to figure out quickly how to solve the issue, and with the resources you have, but never with the scarcity mindset, like it's more okay, how can I get this done? It's not like I can't. I don't believe a lot in the limitations, and actually that's something that all the time I'm like, I'm unlimited. I'm unlimited. That's my mantra sometimes, and it works because I feel like that makes me think quickly about the opportunities and how to see, okay, I can take this, I can do that. But the way to do it's more like go inside, believe in yourself, believe that you can get it, that you can do it, and go for it.
I love that. You live in the realm of possibilities, and that's why you always see them. So tell us a little bit about how this opportunity in London came about and what you're going to be doing there.
Yeah. So last year, in this process of the transition of having a work and not having a work, and what do I want to do in life? I want to start writing the book, and what else? So about what's the book about? At that moment, I realized like I was really passionate, because actually I didn't notice that until that moment. That I was really passionate about mental health and all the things related to, yeah, like traumas, how the childhood influence your adult life, especially because I feel like that's something that has happened a lot to me. A lot of things that came from my childhood are having consequences, positives and negatives, right now in my adulthood. So I was like, okay, how this happened, or why, how the brain works, how the thoughts are created, and all these things about your thoughts creating your reality. So I'm like a lot reading a lot about all this stuff, and suddenly it made sense to me. Like, okay, I never wanted to be an engineer. Actually, like it was more like something that happened, but it wasn't my wish. So if I had to study something, what should I study? Like, what do I want to study? And it made sense to me. Like, okay, I should be doing something more related to psychology. But how is that possible if I am not a psychologist? And I wasn't planning to be studying like 5 years at this point. Maybe I could, but at that moment was like, but it's like a lot of time, and how can I use these properly with all the things that I already have? Because I wanted to use all my skills. So I was okay, how can I get this done? And it looks to me like 5 years, it's too long, and how can I do that? So I started researching about certifications, about health coaching, mindset coaching, a lot of things in psychology, but it was more like certificates. And at some point I found, just googling, I found there were programs in the UK that you can pursue to study a master degree in psychology as a conversion program. So they were created and designed for people like me who with undergraduates different to psychology. So I think this is it. This is the thing I want to do. It's 1 year. I want to study this. I want to learn about this because I feel passionate about it. And then I just decided to go, but it's the same. Like at the moment, this is it, but it's complicated. Like you feel like, okay, should I do it? This is crazy. You have a career here now. You have to move and start from scratch, and a lot of thoughts. That's normal. Like. Imposter syndrome, and then no, it's not like, but I was like, okay, no, let's go for it, and let's see how this goes, and let's go step by step. So that's something that I also do when I feel like really overwhelmed by something. I go step by step. So what's the next step that can take me to that place, and then the next, and then the next one. So I started like, okay, I'm gonna do the English certification, and I'm gonna do the apply to university. I'm gonna get all the documents from the university, blah blah blah, everything. And at the end, I got the approval, like the admission, and they sent the admission, and I, okay, so this was everything that didn't, like, I couldn't control, because I could control apply, but not the response. And when they responded back, I was like, okay, so now it's my turn. Now it's actually my turn to make it happen. So it's the same methodology, I will say, like start, okay, so how, where should I live, how should I live, where do I get the money, what, all the thought, all the questions. But really, I feel like really motivated to do this, and the idea is that I'm gonna be there in September, and starting the master in September with this program. And I'm really looking forward to learning a lot and to apply all the knowledge in the books, and when I speak, and everything that I can help other people with this knowledge.
I love it. And I have no doubt, so much more is going to open up for you there as well. So you don't have to give it all away, but would you share a little bit about what your book is going to be about, and why you wanted to write about this?
Yes. So it has been a journey, because I have tried to write this book like 3 times. And every time that I am writing it, I'm like, okay, I should change it the way I'm writing it. So it has kind of changed a bit the way it's been written, but maybe not the sense, or not the content itself. So basically, I want to tell a bit about my story, my personal experiences, how I felt in life at some point, because I feel like maybe that's something that could help other people, especially since when I was feeling that way, with kind of some symptoms of depression or anxiety, or like a lot of traumas and doubts and things, I felt like I was alone at that moment. So I always wanted to create a book that somebody could read it and feel like I have a friend here, supporting me and somehow guiding me, and discovering with me how everything is going in my life. Because for me, it was like just a lot of things happening, but nobody actually told me how this should be working, or how you should do what you should do. It was more like I was discovering by myself a lot of things. And at some point, I found coaches, and that's another reason why I want to study psychology, because I found psychologists and coaches that actually help me to understand a lot of things. And that's the kind of information I want to reflect the book somehow, to give people. Because one of the things I have noticed is that sometimes people have issues, but they don't even know they have these kind of issues, like they are not aware, don't have this consciousness about it. And I want to just, that maybe you can read something and you say, hey, like I'm living this, or I live this, or why, like, and start like asking questions in their own lives, and see if that's something that could be helpful. Somehow, like the idea with the book is pretty much that, like, just be like a friend telling a story. Hopefully that story is gonna help that person to that moment in their lives, and in just that, like, just want to express myself, and I feel like that's my mission somehow, my purpose. The way I'm seeing it, like all those experiences led me to the person I am today, and that I will be becoming, because this is a continuous process. But it's more like, okay, we are gonna be figuring things out in the way, like on the way, and helping people to just feel, okay, I can read this and I can get something from it. If I can do that, I will be fulfilled.
Mm, I like it. And I like the way you described it is, this is a friend telling her story. And through this story and through what you've learned and the resources that helped you, that it could be helpful for them. And also that they would have this sense that they're not the only one. They're not the only one who's went through this, felt this, thought this, experienced this.
Exactly, because that's something that I felt sometimes, like I was alone in this process, and actually more times that I would want to admit.
Mhm.
Like I wanted all the time, like, as I am different, and that's something also that happens a lot, like you feel different. I'm different, everybody else looks happy, everybody looks content with their jobs and with their lives, and why I'm complaining? I don't want to feel, I want to feel gratitude. And at that moment, I had this kind of all the time contradictions in my life. Like I felt really grateful for my job and for everything, but at the same time I felt like, no, I'm not doing what I should be doing. So these conflicts and how to explore them, and that's just the beginning, because at the end it's that's one thing, but the reason why you are kind of transforming yourself, it's because you are coming from a different person, and suddenly you have to find that person. Like you have to find who you are, your real identity, and yeah, to be this the best version of yourself, or the real you to people.
Mm. You said something in here that is so important, because I think when we're going through a difficult time, we do look at everybody else and go, well, everybody else has it figured out. And everybody else has fulfillment. And everybody else has figured out their career path. And everybody else has a happy marriage. Or everybody else has perfect kids, or whatever it is, right? It's so easy to think everybody else knows something that we don't.
Exactly.
And also, it can be a tricky situation when you do have good things in your life. You feel conflicted about feeling like you want more or something different, because it's like, well, like you said, I should feel grateful. What's something that you would offer to people who right now they have lots of good things, but there's also something in their heart that's calling them somewhere else? What would you recommend or say to that person?
I would say at that moment, start asking you questions. That's the first thing. So it's more like you need to know yourself in order to know what you can do, or what actually the direction that you want to take. Because at the beginning, I didn't know anything. So that's why I was confused all the time, because it wasn't clear for me what I needed to do or what I wanted to do. But it's because I wasn't asking the right questions. I learned that afterwards, like, but just with life pushing me and pushing me. But now that I'm seeing things in retrospective, the smartest thing will be, okay, what do I want to do? Like, write, go, take a journal, take a pen. What do I want to do? Why do I feel this way? If I am not doing this today, what should I be doing? What's my ideal day?
Mhm.
How can I structure my day in an ideal world? Like, okay, if I am able to do, I'm unlimited. If I don't have any issues with money, with family, partner, work, job, what should I be doing today? What's my So that kind of questions are the ones that are gonna be kind of guiding you to that the answers you need in order to see why you don't feel fulfilled completely at this moment. So if you feel like I want to change career, but okay, so you want to change, but what do you want to do? Because it's complicated. For me, clarity is the key. If you don't know where you're going, there's nothing else you can do. You are not gonna take the steps, because you are gonna be like, okay, I don't know, and that's the fear, and you're gonna be blocked, and not you're not gonna move anywhere because you don't know where you're going. So the first thing I would say, and my advice at the beginning, will be just go, take a moment, like take a time for yourself, like an hour, or maybe I don't know, schedule a moment in a place where you can actually concentrate and relax, and write or think. Write is better, because when you're thinking, like, everything gets in your brain, and in my case, I cannot sleep. So I
Mhm.
would say just go with your thoughts and like just write them, everything that comes to your head, and then start like asking questions. And for everything that you discover, go and take more and ask more questions, like go deeper and deeper and deeper, until you find out something that you feel this is it, at least for the next step. Because I'm not asking to have everything figured out for the I don't know where I'm going with all of this. I just know that right now I want to write a book, I want to study psychology, but I don't know at the end where this is going to take me. But that's the thing, you don't need to know exactly where it's going to take you. You just need to go with the flow. But at least I need to know what the next step is. And that's why I would suggest that, like, definitely 100%.
I like that. Get it out. Give it a place to sit so that you can even see it and reflect it back to yourself.
Exactly.
Lianeth, where can people follow you or learn more about you? What's your favorite social media place?
I use Instagram. So that's my social media. I appear like Lianeth Rada. And I try to write things. So now that I'm more like a storyteller, I try to write a bit in this process that I am writing my book. At the same time, I try to post consistently. So go for it and go check it out.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, Lianeth, and for all that you shared about your journey. I want to thank everyone for joining us. And if you would like to share your story, whether it's here or in one of our upcoming books, be sure to click on the link below, reach out. We'd love to hear your story. And one of the things that I want to take from your story, Lianeth, for our listeners is this, is that if you know something is in your heart, know there is a way to accomplishing it, achieving it, having it. And look for the possibilities, because when you're open to the possibilities, they will appear, even if it's different than what you had in your mind. So here's to the possibilities. Thank you, Lianeth, for always opening yourself up to what is there. Until next time, keep telling your story. Bye.